IV characteristics of the fuel cell, current versus potential, and what are the polarization effect, etc. So then we will also be looking at various fuel cell reactions, ORR, MOR, HOR, etc. And what are the criteria for selection of the fuel for a particular fuel cell operations or application we'll be looking at. What are the characteristic of electrode, electrolyte, membrane, whatnot. So then how will you characterize the fuel cell? Similarly, how we have learned for characterizing the batteries, supercapacitors. So we will also study about characterization of the fuel cells. What are the fuel cell loss? One of the biggest challenges the fuel cell community is facing. Fuel cell losses, polarization loss, ohmic loss, fuel crossover. There are at least three to four different losses associated with the fuel cells. Then after completing all these things, we will take up specific fuel cells. That is hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, are also known as PMFC. Then we will move to methanol fuel cells, phosphoric acid fuel cells, MCFC, molten carbonate fuel cells. People invariably, some people call this microbial fuel cells. That is MFC. Here it is MCFC, molten carbonate fuel cells. So at the end, so we will stop at after SOFC, we will stop at the biofuels or microbial fuels. So I will be extensively using the content from fuel cells problem and solutions and the fuel cell engines and other resources. I think both these books are available with me as a e-copy or e-book. So those who are interested, you can take up. Okay, so before we begin, so whatever you know about fuel cell, maybe you can spell out if anybody interested or anybody volunteering, whatever you know about the fuel cell so far. Anybody would like to share whatever you know, anything, whatever you know about the fuel cell, any volunteers you may share. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
fuel cell is that convert chemical energy to electrical energy by redox reaction, sir.
Okay. So is it who is that? Mm,
Understood, sir.
okay. So yeah, fuel cell is a device which converts the chemical energy into electrical energy. Anything else? Anybody had else would like to add anything? Whatever you know so far about fuel cells. Okay. Yeah, so it's correct. It's one of the electrochemical energy sources or power sources. So when I say electrochemical energy sources or power sources, they all convert the chemical energy into electrical energy. We have four prominent electrochemical energy sources or power sources. They are batteries, fuel cells, supercapacitors, and photoelectrochemical cells. And the last one is also known as DSSC, dye-sensitized solar cells. And we also know that batteries and supercapacitors are energy storer. So the chemical energies associated with the anodes, cathodes, or chemicals can be converted and stored in these devices, batteries and the supercapacitors. It's an electrochemical energy converter as well as storer. Whereas we will see that the fuel cells are electrochemical energy converter alone. The chemical energies associated with the fuel molecules are electrodes, anodes, and cathodes, so can be converted and used directly. Unlike batteries and a supercapacitor, where the chemical energy can be converted and stored and can be used anytime, anywhere else, any moment. But fuel cells, so as rightly told, they are energy converters, chemical energy converters. So the chemical energies associated with the fuel molecules If I ask you to name any fuel, I'm sure you'll be able to respond. The simplest fuel would be, what is the simplest fuel you can give me as an example? Okay, so maybe gaseous fuel. Simplest or common fuel, if I ask you to give as one example,
Propane,
you would
sir.
say, huh?
Fossil fuels.
Propane? Yeah, so LPG. I would have expected LPG. It's a form of a hydrocarbon. Hydrogen, another example. Okay, methane. Any gaseous species on decomposition should release energy or fuel. Nitrogen is not a fuel, though it may be in the gaseous state. To split is to decompose nitrogen itself, you require energy. Whereas decomposition of all these other molecules, energetic molecules, we call these molecules as energetic molecules. Decomposition of LPG or liquefied petroleum gas or propylene or methane and hydrogen releases the chemical energy. Chemical energies associated with these fuel molecules can be released upon decomposition, upon oxidation. Here we will use electrochemical oxidation. We'll come to that later. So fuel cells are energy converter. The chemical energies associated with the fuel molecules can be converted into electrical energies. And as you see that, so the fuel cell efficiencies are much larger than that of the combustion engine or conventional gasoline based vehicle engines. So why I compare with that? So vehicles or wherever you have a chemical fuel usage, you look up their efficiencies not more than 40%, not more than 50%, even internal combustion engine, which uses which uses diesel or gasoline as a fuel. 40%, maybe in the best with the BS4 and or BS3 and BS4, you may have up to 40 to 50%. Most significant portion of the fuel is going undecomposed or partially decomposed. Whereas fuel cell efficiency can be as high as theoretically no limitations. At least in the Carnot engine, we have a limitation. You cannot have a 100% 100% efficiency. But in fuel cells, we don't have any such limitations thermodynamically, theoretically. So the current efficiency of the fuel cell is as high as 60 to 80%, even with better catalyst 90%. So it means the fuel utilization is very high compared to the conventional engines or wherever the conventional fossil fuels are used. And this is electrochemical energy converter. The chemical energies associated with the fuel molecules can be converted into electrical energy. So the fuel molecules are essentially hydrogen. If we consider hydrogen and oxygen as a hydrogen oxygen fuel cell or PMFC fuel cell. So the very feature of this fuel cell is as long as you feed the fuels, it may be hydrogen, methane, methanol, ethanol, glycol, or carbon monoxide, anything, even ammonia. So you are going to get electrical energy with the use of this device, that is fuel cells or fuel cells. So you see that, so as long as you feed the fuel, it is possible to get the electrical energy. You'll get electrical potential and current. Depending on the number of cells and depending on the area of the cells, you are going to get the current. So once you stop feeding the fuel, the generation of electrical energy will be stopped. And in that sense, these fuel cells are called replenishable devices or replenishable energy sources. And it is also known as sustainable energy sources. Because as long as you feed the fuel, it is going to generate. Once you stop, it will stop producing. Continuous supply of the fuels. Going to get electrical energy, chemical energy converted into electrical energy. And so many ventures, academic institutions, and industries are already considering this device for scale up, for large production. So that includes usage in a laptop, cell phone power, or many things. And you believe it or not, in 1960 itself, fuel cell technology was implemented in space technology. I have some content. Gemini aircraft, Apollo mission, 1960, which used fuel cell as a power source for powering the launch and the satellite, Apollo aircraft, Apollo space shuttle. Okay, so otherwise, many nations, many ventures are studying about this device, development of these devices. So maybe another couple of classes, we are going to see details about these devices. So it's an electrical energy converter. So along with the electrical energy, as you see, this device also generates the heat. Some people use this device as a heat generator. And you will also see that this device is also known as a water generator. I have very fine numerical problems, estimations. Fuel cell is a water engine. It is also known as fuel cell. It's not just fuel cell engine. It generates significant volume of water. Pure water, 100% water you get. The space people who went in Apollo aircraft, they used the water that was taken from the fuel cell after utilizing. High pure water you are going to get. Water generating engine, fuel cell engines. And as you see now, so as long as you feed the fuel, this device is going to generate the electrical energy. Quite often, the reactants or the fuel molecules are mostly in gaseous state. For example, hydrogen or methane or ammonia or carbon monoxide, not carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, you require energy to decompose. Carbon monoxide decomposition releases the energy. Or even if you consider liquid fuels, liquefied hydrogen or methanol directly, ethanol directly, ethylene glycol as a molecule, as a fuel molecule in liquid. So either you use a gaseous state molecules like hydrogen as a fuel molecule, or liquefied hydrogen or liquid molecules such as methanol, ethanol. So either way, so this device is also known as flow battery or gas battery. Well, what does it gas battery means? Battery we know. What is gas battery? Here the fuel molecules are in the gaseous state, that's all. Battery we know. What is flow battery? There is a separate flow battery is coming up. So where you can flow the anodes and the cathodes or the electrolytes, not like a compact lithium-ion battery. You can have a barrels of electrolyte in flow batteries. Vanadium redox flow batteries, zinc bromine redox flow batteries, they store the barrels of electrolyte as an active material. You flow it whenever you want to operate the battery. So in that sense, so these fuel cells are also known as flow batteries. Continuous battery, how do we rationalize the name terminology used continuous battery for fuel cells? As long as you feed the fuel, you are going to get the electrical energy. So the name, the terminology continuous battery stands. So fuel cells are also known as continuous battery, flow battery, or gas battery. So as long as you feed the fuel and oxidant, so you are going to get the chemical energy converted into electrical energy. This is about the start with. So in any electrochemical energy system, we know three components. What are the three components we have in any electrochemical system?
Anode,
We have
cathode.
yes, we have anode, cathode, and an electrolyte. Same thing here also. We have anode, we have a cathode, and an electrolyte. Same basic three components, even in fuel cells. We have seen it in supercapacitor. We have also seen it in the batteries. Here also three components. But in addition to these three components, we have two more components: a fuel molecule and an oxidant. Fuel molecule and an accident. A fuel molecule should come and make a contact with the anode catalyst, where it will go oxidation. If it is a hydrogen, hydrogen should undergo oxidation at the anode. What is an accident? Oxidant. OXIDENT. Oxygen. It should undergo reduction. So in one side, oxidation will take place. In another side, reduction will take place. If the circuit is completed, so the released energy by the oxidation of the fuel molecule will travel through the circuit and reach at the cathode compartment where it will be consumed. So it will be used for reduction of oxygen into oxide ion. So there will be a generation of O2 minus. If it is a hydrogen, proton will travel from, or hydrogen ion will travel through the electrolyte, come to the cathode compartment. So already oxide ion is there, O2 minus will combine with the H plus, water will be generated. It is simultaneous process. What is simultaneous process? Generation of the electrical energy and water generation. And this electrochemical reaction also generates the heat. That's why, so this machine or engine or fuel cell is also known as heat engine, heat generator. Since water is generated, and this fuel cell also known as water generating engine or fuel cell engine. And now we know it is electrochemical energy converter. Electrochemical energy converter. So this is the operation which has got major components, at least so 3 plus 2. So 5 major components are there. So membrane and electrolyte. So in this case it is same. Membrane serves the same purpose of electrolyte purpose here in fuel cells. So especially in fuel cells. So it all started with this lawyer turned to be a scientist, William Grove, Sir William Grove. So basically he was a lawyer, okay, so by profession a lawyer. So he had a habit of making this experiment. What he has done was, he has taken a beaker. He has taken a beaker with water and immersed with 2 conductors. It happened to be platinum conductors. So now we know that any conductor immersed in a solution, we call that as a electrode. Then he has connected these 2 electrodes to a battery in 1830 itself. In 1830 itself, he had that passion. William Grove. What he saw was, there was a formation of bubbles in both the compartments. There was a formation of bubbles in both the compartment whenever he connected this battery to these 2 terminals or electrodes. This is not great. What is great was, he has captured those bubbles. Okay, so when you have a liquid, it would look bubble, but you see that bubbles are nothing but some gaseous species. These gaseous species, he combined together. That time, instead of battery, he has put a voltage sensor. Now I am saying it is voltage sensor. Maybe you would have had I don't know what kind of voltage sensor you would have had in 1930. But there he saw 1.23 voltage. When he applied 1.23 voltage or 1.5 voltage from this water or electrolyte, he saw bubbling in both the electrodes. when he removed the battery and combined them together, and he read the generation of the potential. That has become the basis for fuel cell development. In 19, it happened in 1839, and he didn't know what to name. He named it as a gas battery. By the time lead acid battery developed, as knowledge of lead acid battery has come, Western battery and all came. So battery only they know. They don't know about a fuel cell. So he only named it as a gas battery. Because he has used, later it was found that it is hydrogen and oxygen. Combination of hydrogen and oxygen in a suitable electrolyte generates the potential voltage. How? This is a simple oxidation of hydrogen into H+. Then a reduction of oxygen into water. So this has led to development of William Cruise fuel cell. So this is the overall history if you would like to have it. So all credit should go to the Sir William Cruise, who contributed. A lawyer turned out to be a scientist in 1839, father of the fuel cells, if you are to say. So who has given the concept of gas battery or continuous battery. Then later, Thomas Bacon picked up this concept and made us in the form of a fuel cell stack, because so each fuel cell develops or generates only limited potential or voltage, 1.23 theoretically. I have an estimation how it comes. But with 1.23 voltage, what we can do? Nothing can be done. Nothing significant can be done. So Thomas Bacon started piling it, stacking it, in order to arrive the required potentials and the required current. So fuel cell stack was developed by Thomas Bacon in 1950. So by the time, so alkali fuel cells arrived. It was implemented in Apollo mission, 1960. So then, so phosphoric acid fuel cell, solid oxide fuel cell, and even carbon monoxide as a fuel has come up. So after 1960 and the 70s, and now we know, so it has been considered for even power in the electric vehicles, powering the laptop. Sony has a prototype of fuel cell, which can be used for your laptop, your cell phone. Fuel cell can be powered, mobile phone can be powered by using a fuel cell. Sony has a prototype fuel cell. And many ventures are considering electrifying electric vehicles. We have a separate topic, electric fuel cell operated electric vehicles, like a battery operated electric vehicles, fuel cell electric vehicles. There are two versions of fuel cell electric vehicles, parallel and series. Parallel connected, series connected fuel cell electric vehicles. And so now fuel cell is taking the direction to have even megawatts of power, not just few watts, few milliwatt to power your laptop or any such small gadgets, but large applications. Bloom Energy, you would have heard about it, developed by Sridhar, an Indian. Bloom Energy. You name any size of fuel cell power you want, he has a component and he has the technology to transfer. Bloom Energy. And that works essentially on SOFC and MCFC based. The waste heat, waste carbon monoxide that is emitted by machineries or industries can be utilized to convert them into electrical energy using this molten carbonate fuel cell in combination with the SOFC. Bloom Energy. And government of India is very much pushing this field and these devices to take up. lot of money is pumped to develop fuel cell technologies. So this is the cartoon view of gas batteries that William Grew has used. So such a crude method has led to this much advanced fuel cell technology. There is a bus which runs between there are test vehicles. Even in India, I have some data. ISRO and I think it is Ashok Leyland. ISRO and Ashok Leyland, or ISRO, I am sure Ashok Leyland or some other venture, jointly they have launched a fuel cell vehicle in India, exclusively powered by fuel cells. And such a crude William Grew's gas battery technology has taken to this much advanced fuel cell technology, which can be implemented in fuel cell electric vehicles and domestic applications, etc. So this is the electrolyzer. So application of the potential generates the hydrogen and oxygen. You remove the potential, release this generated hydrogen and oxygen, and you read the potential 1.23. You read the potentials. So this is Thomas Backen's lab in Cambridge. And you know that he was experimenting with the fuel cell stacks. What is a stack? You pile it. Okay, you pile it. So layer by layer, or you take one fuel cell, add another one. You build the series connected fuel cells, or so parallel connected fuel cells in such a way that you increase the potential or increase the current, or both can be manipulated. So Thomas Backen was working with his fuel cell stack. And so in the 1960 itself, this organization, NASA, as you know, they sent the space shuttle using fuel cell. In 1960 itself, Apollo aircraft, Gemini aircraft, Apollo mission. But unfortunately, so the use of fuel cell has not become that much wider compared to the batteries. So lithium batteries are on the market maybe last 20 years or so. But the fuel cell technology was implemented in space technology in 1960 itself. How many years? So 40, 60 years before itself. But the utilization or the market of the fuel cell is not that much about that of the batteries. We'll see why later. We'll see why. So this is the better view of the Apollo mission. They have used fuel cells. As I said, so the water that was generated from this fuel cell were used for drinking the crews in the Apollo mission. High pure water you can get, no impurities. And I'm sure you know that high pure water cannot be consumed. Potable water should have some minerals. That's why we call it as a mineral water. It should have some ions. It's not 100% hydrogen and oxygen combined in the form of water for drinking. Potable water should have some minerals. So I'm sure they would have had some minerals and consumed it. The pure water that was taken from or got from this fuel cell stacks. So I think these images were taken from NASA's websites. Yeah, so essentially you see that the fuel cell that was used in 1960 itself could be able to deliver this much power. At least 500 to 1400 watts roughly. Or they could get maximum 2300 watts. But still the fuel cell research community is struggling to get high power fuel cells. They had 3 fuel cell stack. Each fuel cell stack had 31. So into 3. Okay, so developing about 31 of 31 fuel cells, each generating 1.23 voltage. They had 3 such stacks. So since they are, it was sent from NASA, so they would have satisfied with the 110 voltage or about 110 voltage. More on this. More on the Apollo fuel cells. So they have used liquefied hydrogen and oxygen. So we will see that it is very risky to carry the hydrogen in the form of gas. Very, very risky. Otherwise, we all should be using hydrogen as a fuel in the kitchen. Very risky to handle hydrogen in the form of gas. So relatively, hydrogen in the form of liquid is better. But generation of liquefied hydrogen requires a better infrastructure, different infrastructure, expensive. So that's why hydrogen is not very commonly used as a fuel for domestic applications. Okay. So they have used liquefied hydrogen and stored in the form of a tank. Once you release, so you have reverse opposite of the Thomson's effect. So J.J. Thomson effect, you know. So certain gases, so if you expand them from high pressure, the temperature of the gas falls. You get liquid nitrogen or liquid helium. Similarly, when you expand compressed liquid into the low volume, so it becomes gaseous state. That they have used for feeding to the fuel cell, and then oxygen similarly. So combined in the sent to the fuel cell. That fuel cell generated the electrical energy, and it was used for powering the Apollo mission or Apollo aircraft. By the time, when this generates the electrical energy, so water is also generated, and they have used it for drinking, maybe circulations. I have several numerical estimations. You please wait for how much water will generate and how much barrel of hydrogen you require to get enough amount of water and enough amount of current, voltage, etc. I have numerical estimations. So the content of this fuel cell unit already have transmitted. So let's see. Classifications. We have done with the basics. What about fuel cells? So what are fuel cells? We know. We can have different types of fuel cells, and they can be classified based on 3 modes. The first mode classification of fuel cell is use of the electrolyte. Based on the electrolyte, we have different types of fuel cells. The first and foremost is PEMFC, polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell, or it is also known as proton exchange membrane fuel cells, or is also known as hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. 3 names, same. So essentially that the electrolyte is sulfuric acid, H2SO4, some concentration of sulfuric acid. So then Thomas Bacon developed this later 1960, 1950 alkali fuel cell, AFC, PMFC, AFC now. So why people went for alkaline fuel cell? I have reason. So we will be seeing alkaline fuel cells separately. One main reason is, so compared to the PMFC, alkali fuel cell can be run at an elevated temperature, little higher temperature. What is the use of analyzing or using the fuel cell at elevated temperature? You will be able to generate much better power if you operate fuel cell at elevated temperature. The sluggish oxidation reaction or reduction reaction that are occurring at low temperature can be lifted to occur at a faster rate if you accelerate the reaction rate by applying a temperature. So that was not possible in a polymer fuel cell or a hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. Then it is possible in alkaline fuel cells. Then came phosphoric acid fuel cell, which can be operated comfortably at above 150 degree phosphoric acid fuel cell. So the reason why people went for phosphoric acid fuel cell is compared to sulfuric acid. So phosphoric acid has much better conductivity. So much better conductivity means we will be able to get much better performance. The fuel cell performance or power density can be better. So then we have, based on the electrolyte, here carbonate as an electrolyte. Molten carbonate. What is molten? Syrup that you can obtain by melting a solid. You take sodium carbonate, melt it at its melting temperature, then you try to see its conductivity and use it for carbon monoxide fuel cells. Lithium carbonate, sodium carbonate, etc. at an elevated temperature. So then you use all these polluting gas as carbon monoxide as a fuel molecule to feed to this MCFC, and it will convert this chemical energy associated with the carbon monoxide into electrical energy. Then SOFC is another classification. Solid oxide fuel cells. SOFC, solid oxide fuel cells. So using this SOFC, it is possible to operate even at 600 degrees, 700 degrees, 800 degrees, up to 1000 also. So it means, we will see later, in the case of low temperature fuel cells, another classification based on the operating temperature is low temperature fuel cell, high temperature fuel cell. I will come to that later. You don't need to have an expensive catalyst which demands for these low temperature fuel cells, APMFC, alkaline fuel cells, etc. In the case of SOFC, you can use even oxides as a catalyst, nickel oxide as a catalyst, lanthanum oxide as a catalyst. This is not possible at low temperature fuel cells, for example, hydrogen oxide fuel cell or PMFC. You need to use platinum and platinum based catalyst as an anode catalyst or cathode catalyst, or both. Okay. So we have done with one type of classification based on the electrolyte that is being used in fuel cells. We have different types of fuel cells: PMFC, AFC, PAFC, MCFC, SOFC. And then based on the use of fuel, we have different variety of fuel cells: hydrogen fuel cell, alcohol fuel cell, carbon monoxide fuel cell, methane fuel cells. As the name implies, hydrogen fuel cell means it uses hydrogen as the fuel. Alcohol fuel cell, alcohol. We have variety of alcohol: methanol, ethanol, ethylene glycol, etc. In general, any alcohol can be used. Commonly used alcohol is ethanol. Methanol can also be used. Ethylene glycol also can be used. Carbon monoxide as a fuel, so which can be used in MCFC applications. Methane as a fuel, ammonia as a fuel. So based on the type of the fuel that is being used, different types of classifications. Then fuel cells can also be classified based on the temperature of its operations. So we don't insist much on the battery about the temperature, but here we can operate the battery fuel cell at two different temperatures: low temperature fuel cell, high temperature fuel cells. Just now we have seen what will cause to the high temperature operation of the fuel cell. Generally, the reaction rates are slow at low temperature, and its rate can be enhanced if you lift the temperature to higher, elevate the temperature. Certain fuel cells will not cooperate, but certain fuel cells will cooperate. PMFC cannot be operated at elevated temperature, whereas phosphoric acid, MCFC, SOFC can be operated at elevated temperature. So they all come under high temperature fuel cell, and hydrogen oxide fuel cell will come under low temperature fuel cells. I think this is a simple classification about the textbook classification of the fuel cells. So let's ask, what is the fuel cell can give in terms of electrical energy. What is the electrical potential a single fuel cell will be able to give? Battery, we know, depending on the battery, the potential is characteristic. Lead acid battery, theoretically, it can give 2.0304 voltage. So 2.20 volt, 2 voltage. Lithium ion battery, so if graphite as an electrode and lithium cobalt oxide as a cathode, OCB, theoretically, it will be able to produce 3.5 voltage. And zinc primary cell or dry cell would be able to give 1.2 voltage or 1.5 voltage, secondary alkaline batteries. Depending on the battery, we know that voltage a single cell can develop, single battery can develop. Similarly, we have different types of fuel cell. What is the voltage we can get? Can be a good question, at least theoretically. Theoretically, how much electrical energy or electrical potential you can get. So this equation must be familiar to you. E equal to minus or delta G equal to minus NFE, or E equal to minus delta G by NF. All terminologies must be familiar to you. E is the potential of the fuel cell, in this case, the maximum theoretical potential that can be obtained. And delta G we know. So we have seen different types of fuel cells classification now: methanol fuel cell, ethanol fuel cell, hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, etc. And each is having a characteristic reaction. In hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, hydrogen undergoes oxidation, oxygen undergoes reduction. In methanol fuel cell, methanol will undergo MOR, methanol oxygen oxidation reaction. Similarly, maybe in carbon monoxide will undergo oxidation. There is a definite Faradaic reaction. Two reactions, one anode and one cathode. And they are all electrochemical reactions. Electrochemical reactions also associated with the delta G, free energy change. We have seen it first unit, that delta G. And since this is electrochemical reaction, so we know how many number of electrons are involved in the reaction. N and F is, Faradaic reaction. Here is one example. So hydrogen oxygen fuel cell I have taken. Let's see how much is the theoretical maximum potential it can generate. So the anode reaction in hydrogen oxygen fuel cell is given here, 2H2 giving rise to 4H plus 4 electron. Anode reaction, oxidation. Hydrogen is oxidizing. HOR if we have to simplify the reaction. And we have a cathode oxygen reduction reaction. Oxygen, I'm sure you will agree with me, it is reduced here in the form of water. Okay, if I split water, so it will be 2H plus O2 2 minus, O2 2 minus, oxide ion. Oxygen is neutral, oxide ion is reduced form of oxygen. So then you have a H plus combined, then you write it as a water. So 4H plus O2 giving plus 4 electron giving rise to 2H2. Or so the global reaction. Have you heard about global reaction previously? Have you heard about global reaction? Yes, right? In the first unit, when we have seen the basics of electrochemical reaction, there was a numerical problem. The global fuel cell reaction is something is given, saying this is the global fuel cell reaction. 2H2 plus O2 giving rise to 2H2. 2H2 plus O2 plus giving rise to H2O. This equation can also be written in another way. H2 plus half O2 giving rise to H2O. I'm sure why we have to write, we can write, and why we can write like this, you should be able to know. We'll be using that equation later. So this is the global fuel cell reaction in the case of hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, which is associated with the negative free energy change of about minus 237 kilojoules per mole. This is the information we know now. What are the informations we know? We know delta G, we know N, and we also know F. So estimate cell potential, cell voltage maximum it can generate. So please try to give me response. 237 kilojoules per mole is the delta G. NF you know. So you can take 4 electrons and try to estimate what is the maximum potential you can get. If or one of you, if you tell how to go about it, we can move further. So delta G we know minus 237 or 237,000 become joule per mole. N is 4 electron. So with respect to 1 mole of oxygen, it is 4 electron. Okay. With respect to 1 mole of hydrogen, how many electrons are involved in the reaction? Can anyone tell?
2, sir.
2 electron. Okay. So you need to be very careful. With respect to 1 mole of hydrogen, it is 2 electron. With respect to 1 mole of oxygen, 4 electron. With respect to 1 mole of oxygen, how many electrons are involved? Sorry. With respect to formation of 1 mole of water, how many electrons are involved? All
Again,
these three.
Okay.
Yes. We will be using these 3 different numbers later in the numerical problem coming up. Maybe next class or next to next class. So here 2 moles of water is formed. Number of electron involved is 4. So, but for any calculation, you have to take 1 mole formation. 1 mole of formation of water will consume 2 electron only. Okay. So please use that number. So minus 237,000 divided by 2 into F. So F is 96,500 coulombs. How much it is roughly?
1.231.
1.23. And you don't have to convert anything. That is automatically voltage, because so we have taken in joule. 1 joule is nothing but, so joule is nothing but voltage into coulomb. So 1 coulomb of charge passed in 1 voltage difference is the energy. That is joule. Okay, that is joule. So mole will cancel out. Coulomb also will cancel out. You will end up with the voltage. So the number what you get is directly voltage 1.23. Is there any other number after 3? Or just 1.23? Please check. Okay, please check. So this is for a hydrogen oxygen fuel cell. So instead of hydrogen as a fuel, if you take methanol, you will also get similarly this potential. I won't say it is exactly 1.23. It is slightly less, 1.20, little less. You take any other fuel, what is its this delta G? Based on that, this theoretical voltage will be there. But generally, so a fuel cell will generate theoretically 1.23 voltage. 1.23 voltage theoretically. How much practically you will get? That's the challenge in fuel cell. That is one of the reasons why fuel cell technology has not gone into the way how the battery has performed the last 20 years, 30 years. Though so the available fuel cell technology was existing even in 1960 itself. It has become very, very expensive to operate a fuel cell. You require expensive catalyst to do this job. A simple reaction. To do this, you require very expensive catalyst. It is mostly platinum and platinum-based materials. It cannot be done with maybe aluminum. Maybe these days it is very cheaper. Even the aluminum was very, very expensive in King's ages. I told you one story. It was a precious metal before the electro-refining process or technology was invented, you know. Then with the application of electro-refining of aluminum, bauxite into aluminum, the price of aluminum has come down. But it will not serve this purpose, electrode purpose, or catalyst purpose. Only platinum and related platinum materials only can serve that purpose. That is why it is expensive. And we will also later see that not only catalyst platinum, the separator or the membrane also is very, very expensive. Membrane also very, very expensive. So that is why, so the fuel cell technology has not become this much viable. Of course, scientists and technologists are not keeping quiet. They are trying to improve their performances. So I hope in near future, fuel cell also will be a common device. So applicable for, if not for smaller dynamic applications like mobile applications, maybe for stationary applications, it may be used in the near futures. So we will stop now. Okay. So more on the fuel cell operation and types of fuel cells we will take up. So if anybody would like to add anything on this, we can do so.
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, what is the main difference between battery and fuel cell?
Okay, so the main differences between batteries and the fuel cell, it is coming. I have some kind of 1 or 2 slides I have. The main difference I would say, thermodynamically, fuel cells are open system. Batteries are closed system. So thermodynamically, we know there are 3 systems, you know, right? Open system, closed system, isolated system. What is open system? The system is called open system where both energy and mass are exchanged. It is open system. Whereas batteries are closed system. Okay, so it doesn't exchange the mass, but exchanges the energy. It is open system. Closed system. What is isolated system? It neither exchanges mass nor energy with the system and the surrounding. There are 3 types of system, thermodynamic system. Fuel cells are open system, batteries are closed system. There is no mass transfer taking from the surrounding and the battery. Whereas mass is getting transferred between the system and the fuel cell. That is main difference. There are many other features we will come across later. So batteries are rechargeable, but these are refuelable. Okay, so electrodes are consumed. Here, the fuels are consumed. And there is a limitation in the number of cycles. Here, there is no limitation in terms of the energy densities for fuel cells. That is why in the Ragon plot, you see top. If you remember the Ragon plot, so fuel cell sits at the top, very high energy density. It means as larger the size of your barrel, fuel barrel, larger the energy density. But we can't have like this for batteries. We have some specific differences, comparison between the batteries and the internal combustion engines. Anything else?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So anything else?
No, sir.
Yeah. So